Hello again, and welcome back. I've been doing these little videos now for a little more than a year, and there was one that went out a few weeks ago that's had more response and more views than anything else I've done. And that was the one where I spoke about safety data sheets and their use and misuse. And I had a lot of comments on that. Mostly agreeing with my point that the SDS is not a transport document and shouldn't be expected to be used as such. But also comments as to explaining why it is becoming used as a transport document. For instance, several people said, well, you say it's not a transport document, and I agree with you, but try booking freight without one. And that's a good point. But more specifically, and thanks to Sue Cassels from Castellon in particular for discussing this at some length, that there is information on the SDS that simply isn't available anywhere else. And we spoke about the need, as a result of the MSC Flaminia judgment, for shippers, cargo manufacturers and suppliers, as well as those intermediaries in the supply chain, to make sure that that information, any information that's relevant to the safety of the goods in transport, is passed on down the chain. So what Sue was saying was that as a tank container operator, there are things that you really need to know. You need to know, I mean, take this for an example. You are presented with a Class 8 substance. It's corrosive, you know that. But you don't necessarily know what it's corrosive to. Some things that are particularly corrosive to stainless steel, halide compounds, may be fairly obvious from the proper shipping name, but not always. So it's good to know if your tank is liable to corrosion as a result of carrying that cargo. There are other things as well. Things like vapor pressure, for instance, could be relevant, or product density, or the necessary temperature range that it's got to be carried under. And quite often, I think probably the SDS is the only place you'll get that. Now, I've seen SDSs where Section 14 has been completed in such a way that it takes up 2 pages, which is ridiculous, really, because, as I pointed out, the SDS is compiled by a chemist, not necessarily a transport specialist. Really, I think Section 14 should identify the proper shipping name, the UN number, maybe the class or division, and packing group. But that's about it. It's then up to the company undertaking the transport to figure out how that will impact the way it's shipped and depending on the regulations that are applicable to its transport and the sort of configuration under which it's shipped. But those transport specialists will need to refer to other aspects of the safety data sheet to figure out how to do it safely. Should that information, in fact, be on the dangerous goods document or the shipping document? Would it be a good idea for the UN to come up with a companion sheet to the safety data sheet for transport information relevant to transport? Perhaps that's worth thinking about, and maybe somebody would like to take that to Geneva and see what comes back. Even if we do, it'll be a few years off yet. If you've got any comments on this, feel free to get in touch, because these videos have clearly hit a nerve, I think, and there's disagreement between different parties in the supply chain as to what the SDS is supposed to do. Do get in touch. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.